Hello fellow coding rabbits, and welcome to live coding with RabbitWerks JavaScript. My name is Sean, again once with you tonight. We are doing Vue Basics. Oh, I already see an error. Anyways, tonight's episode is episode 12 of the Vue Basics series, and we're looking at the Vue-Router and Vue-Router view tag, and also the router link tag as well. So what exactly is a router exactly? So a router is, so when you hear of like routes and stuff like that, it's different pages and whatnot, different routes in our website, different pages in our websites and web apps that users can navigate to and whatnot. In a traditional HTML website, it would be like, you know, you'd have a page for like index.html, you'd have like an about HTML, like a contact HTML. Those would all be technically different routes or different pages. Well, since we're building single page applications and everything is housed inside of the index.html file, and it doesn't get that HTML file is the only HTML file that gets served to us or to the client, then we have to stay within that page. Using the Vue-Router, we're basically able to emulate different browsing and navigating to different pages that you would get from a multi-page application or website, while all still remaining inside of the index.html. So there's a couple ways we can go about doing this. So the Vue-Router is just a Vue plugin essentially, and it allows us to dynamically update a component or a special tag called the router view tag. And doing so, it's basically, it works a lot like the dynamic components, in a way that it just basically loads in a component in place of wherever the router view tag is at. So before we do any of that, we have to get Vue into our project. So what I want to do actually for this is, let's see, where is index.html, Vue CLI. What I want to do is initialize a project inside of here and just use that to go between all of our different sub projects that we've come up with so far. I think that'll be alright, because it'll probably just it's just going to change this stuff, which isn't anything that we need actually for this project. So let's go about doing that. So we'll do npm or view create project router, just like that. This up, there's an update available, so we'll have to update to 3.9.3. We don't need Vuex, so we'll just do the default build for now. And while we're doing that, we'll take a look closer at some of the examples inside of here. So there's two main things we need to keep in mind when we're using the Vue-Router. And that's, well, how it operates from the router side of things and how it operates inside of our Vue components and whatnot. So first we'll take a look at what a Vue-Router actually looks like. And this is just a basic example. So we have a couple of different, so first we have just like our router.js file, and we have a couple of different, we import Vue, we import the Vue-Router from Vue-Router package. And then we have the components we want to use as views. So I guess before we go any further, I want to specify that, let's see, where is it? So when we're using routes and the router in general, instead of what we refer to as components, or pages and whatnot, we refer to them as views, or also you'll hear screens at times as well. So views or screens, and a view can be thought of as just like an individual page. So like you would have like an about view, a home view, a contact view, and then inside of those views we can bring in our components that we want to build out that feature or whatever that we're bringing in essentially. Okay. Shoot, actually, you know what? We need to delete that. This is the delete that. Let's see if we can go out. Actually, these are all the changes that we just pulled in. Sorry, I'm thinking right now. How do we want to do this? Intro to Vue? No. Slot sandbox, Vue CLI. Let's just do it. We're going to do it inside of the Vue CLI. Oh, wait. Crap. That's too far in. Oh, alright. You know what? Let's just do it again really quick while we talk about this a little bit further. We'll just make it work. Sorry, my bad. Anyways, okay, back to the preview. So inside of here we have our routes, and basically what we do is we instantiate a new Vue-Router, we export it all in one line, or you can do it as a variable and then export the variable. And then inside of our Vue-Router, it's basically is a function or a class that takes an options object, right? So, or the object-based API again. So we pass in an options object, and inside of this options object, the main thing we're going to be working with are routes. So routes is traditionally an array of objects, and inside of each object, the minimum that we need in order for it to work is we need a path, which refers to the actual web address, the name of the route that we're going to be working with, and then also what component is going to be essentially loaded as that view or that route inside of the router view tag, which we'll show. So we have a couple different ones. You see we have like a home here, which is main, and it's at the root route, so it's a slash, and then it has a component called main open that we bring in for that. The next one we got is, I was in a hurry when I was typing this. Jeez Louise. Okay. Next route we have is the home route, and again that gets the name of home, and then our component that we load in is going to be our home component, our home view. And you can see in here that we put it in our own special directory called views to help differentiate between, you know, regular components and what we're using components as views for. Okay, so this is in here. We're not gonna delete it this time. And so typically what we can do is when we're instantiating or spinning up a new project like that using the Vue CLI. Oops, shit. I gotta close this. Restart the route. Oh no. Kill the terminal. That's what I want to do. Okay. I cleared my directory. Alright, so what I was saying is that usually when we're bringing in, we could have done it this route as well, but usually when we're bringing in or spinning up a new Vue project, it gives us the option to include the Vue-Router off the get-go. But we also can bring it in after the fact, and you can do it completely manually using npm add or npm install Vue-Router, and that'll bring just the package in, and then you have to set up all of everything manually. But if we're still using the Vue CLI, we have another command that we can use, a Vue command, so Vue add Vue-Router, and that'll basically load up the Vue-Router plugin for us. It'll generate all the files that we need. It'll update all the files that we need in order to make it work. And then it'll give us a list of stuff. So we'll go about it this route since we're doing it after the fact. Excuse me. But yeah, you can include this in when you're instantiating a Vue project. And say hi to Joshua in the chat. He says hello, RabbitWerks with the cog. That's awesome. I love it. How's it going, dude? Hope you're having a good summer. Glad you can make it into the chat. Happy Sunday evening. And cool. So we're just talking about the Vue-Router right now and just kind of explaining how to bring it into a project. And we have this new project that we just instantiated, and inside of that, so we need to actually just cd into that project really quick. It's not reading me. We need to go into project router. Just like that. All right, so now we'll run that Vue command. So we'll say Vue add, and Vue add is basically a command that is built into the Vue CLI that's relatively new, and we can add Vue plugins to our projects quite easily using the Vue add command. So as we'll see right now, type in Vue add Vue-Router, hit enter, and it's gonna go do its thing. What happened? Oh, you know what? I need to update. npm. So it looks like it is quite new. npm I at Vue CLI -G. Or is that the right name of it? I think it's the right name of it. We're on the router thing right now. Installation, Vue install, Vue-Router. Yeah, this is older. Oh, goodness. So I'm like uploading a video to YouTube right now at the same time as streaming. That's like super throttled on that end, and then we got other people using the internet too, so it's a miracle that we have enough bandwidth right now. All right, that's in there now. We should be able to run this command. I believe it's that new, so let's try and give it a shot. Nope. Let's see. Vue add Vue-Router. Oh, I think I need to oh, right here. Okay, so it doesn't need, it just needs, I have to change that. So it's Vue add router. Okay, so it asks us for history mode when we set up and bring in the router. Most of the time, well, not most of the time, for the projects that I've been doing using the Vue-Router, I just set it to no, because as you can see right here, this warning message at the bottom, using it in history mode requires proper server setup for index fallback in production, meaning that if we don't have fallbacks set up and it tries to actually go to that page instead of rerouting to a component inside of the index.html, we're going to get a blank page, and the app will, depending on what happens, will more than likely break at the point. So only use history mode if you know how to set up that fallback stuff, so look into that. But I usually just get away with using the hash mode, so which is the default. So I'll say no for now, and then it's going to install everything for us. Oh, this is really small. There we go. All right, so Inside of this terminal, you can see when we use this command to bring in a Vue plugin, it gives us a list, excuse me, of all the files that have been updated as a result of bringing this stuff in. So let's see, let's just do a little bit of housekeeping really quick. We don't need this or this components folder. We do have a views folder, and you can see that it's put that in there automatically for us. We have a home.view and an about.view. So inside of this, if we take a look at our app.view, we'll also see some new tags in here as well. We have the router links, which are basically a way to use navigation within the Vue-Router, which we'll talk about. And then we also have the router view. So this is the component that gets updated. This is kind of like a special component, special tag that gets updated with the component that that is being currently rendered or whatever by the router, and it gets rendered in place of this tag right here. So what we'll do instead of having, okay, before we go any further, actually is let's spin this project up. And we won't really be linking to anything. What I want to do is I want to link to all of our other side projects that we have in this repo, and in doing so, what we'll probably end up doing is like just targeting the app.view as a view. Too many word views. What's going on? Dependency was not found. Oh, crap. So that should be in our home. Delete this. Delete that. Now we should have it. We can spin it up or load it up in our browser here. Localhost 8080. Give it an inspect. Let's see. Hello world is not defined. Oops. Gotta make sure we unregister it if it's not there. Alright, cool. We have this. Let's take this and just give ourselves a little bit of font size on here. We'll just do 36 pixels. Alright, cool. And I think we can do fallback content in here if I'm not mistaken. So if it was just like, or not inside of here like that. I mean, if this was not self-closing and we had the tag right there, I think if we did something, oops. Maybe. So if we, oops. No, okay. Never mind. There might be a way to set up fallback, but we're not going to worry about that tonight because we're just getting a basic understanding of the router view right now. And okay, so we have two different things. Let's go to these. What do we have in the about? This is an about page. There we go. Okay. Vue-Router. And let's take a look at... Actually, I want to add this in. Let's look at all of our projects. Alright, so right now we have a couple of things set up. And we can actually get rid of this about view. We don't need that. And because I'll show you what we're going to do here in just a second. And in doing that, we need to fix our router.js and remove this route, demonstrating lazy loading, so we don't need to worry about that. Okay. So it just brings us to a blank page, or it doesn't load anything or whatever. So we're inside of Vue still, but inside of this container that's our Vue-Router, it doesn't load anything. So actually, let's take a look at our Vue dev tools. So there's nothing really in here right now, but if we go to home, we can see that it changes. It actually completely changes from router view to home, the name of the component that we're actually rendering, and it says, it gives us this little badge saying that this is in fact the router view. If we click on that, we can get some data that's automatically generated inside of this component referring to the route object. And the route object is basically the object that we can pass into the router to provide certain information about the route that we want to go to. So a path, which is the name of the route that we want to go to. Query, so if we have any query strings or any query parameters that need to be ran, included into the route, which will be generated up in the address bar as a query string. We also have a params object that's kind of like a request.params object from backend. You get different parameters that you can pass over to the route. You get the full name and then the name, and that's just some metadata that we don't have right now. So a couple of different things, and we'll look at that in just a minute. So first of all, we have our home, and this is again the router.js that we're in. So we're importing Vue. We import the router from Vue-Router. We bring in the components that we need. So we'll say root index component is right here, and then we need a semicolon, all this stuff, and then we'll say project root components. So once we have Vue and the router imported, we just call Vue.use, and then we pass the router into that, and that registers the router as a plugin on the Vue prototype that we can use globally, and that gives us access to it with $router, or what is it, $route? Yeah, so, or yeah, however we bring it in. But we also get access to it via the $route as well on the component, so it gives us this options object as well. Okay, so this component home corresponds with our home route that we talked about in the example. We have a path, and we have a routes array inside of our router, and that contains objects containing our routes. So though inside of there, we have a property for path, property for name, and our property for the component to be loaded. And cool. So what we'll do now is we will just start by bringing in our sub projects one by one and see if we can get this to work. So we need to create a new object, and we'll have path, just like that, and it will be / custom events. Right, okay. Next property we need is the name property, and that will be custom events. Just like that. Next thing we need is the component property. And for now, we'll have that empty because we need to bring it in. So what I want to do for this is we're going to import custom events app from /. So we need to go up to the Vue Basics folder, and then over to custom events sandbox, and then inside of the source folder, and then we want to target the app.js Vue. And then we should be able to pull that and say custom events app. Just like that. Because it shouldn't matter where this Vue component is living, because ultimately it's just a Vue component. It shouldn't matter where it's actually stored. We could go into a different drive essentially and pull it in from there, and it would work all the same. So the fact that that's in a different project repo or whatever, it's just, that should be fine. And so we can actually test that out and see, which means our app will load inside of here. Should we give this, actually, let's just give it a shot. Okay, we can delete this router link and we'll just type it up as we go along. So to bring in a new router link, we have the router link tag or whatever. We have a couple attributes that we use with it. We have the to attribute, and we also have a tag attribute, which we can specify which tag we want it to be loaded as. So which HTML tag. So the router link, just like that, and then we can say to equals, and this is like how you would hard code it declaratively. We can also do it programmatically using JavaScript to push a new route to the router, which we'll just look at after this. Custom events, just like that. Yeah, give ourselves a pipe symbol. All right, custom events. So we have, yeah, maybe not. Maybe it won't work because we don't have vuejs available to us in this instance. But okay, let's see, what else could we do? Dynamic components. Let's try that one. So let's duplicate this router link and do dynamic CPMS or CMPS. Yeah. And then we can duplicate that slightly, and we'll say, actually, let's just type it out. So import dynamic components app from, we go out 2 levels, or up 2 levels, go over to dynamic components into the source and get the app.vue. And then we change this to dynamic components. Cool. Let's see if that one runs in. Oops, I think I need to refresh it because it... Alright, my grand idea didn't work as well as I wanted it to. Whoa. That's alright. So instead of trying to do this, let's just go through and demonstrate how we would do this. Just with regular, instead of trying to be all convoluted like I'm doing here. So we can delete these router links and just erase that. And inside of our router.js, we can get rid of these. Oh wait, maybe that worked actually. Before I do that, I'm gonna see, so I forgot to do something. I need to make the route. So I'm gonna create a new object here, and it will be path dynamic, oops, just like that. And then we can say name dynamic, and then just say component is dynamic components app. Let's see if this works. Is it gonna work? Nope. Okay, but alright, let's start over here for a second. But so the concept is the same, and what we'll do is we'll just do that about page again. So we'll do path is, well, actually, let's actually just go like this. Let's do a user, because I want to demonstrate the params as well. So the name of it will be a user, and then the component will be user, just like that. Oops. And we need to define that. So we need to create it first. So inside of our views, let's create in the project router folder, we're going to create a new file in the views folder, and we'll call it user.view, and we can just scaffold out a basic view template here, and we'll just do an h1, and we'll say user profile, just like that, and then we can just say this page is a this view is under construction, if I can spell. Why is that red? Oh, because we have 2 root elements, and we can't have that. So we need to wrap these 2 headings inside of a div. Let's just actually just say div. You don't need to give it a class or anything. Tab that out, fix this up a little bit just so we can see it a little easier. Alright, so let's go back to the page that we know that works. Oh. User is not defined. Okay. So now that we have our user component, or our user view, we can import it to our router. And then we'll just say import it from views/user.view, just like that. And now let's minimize this a little bit. I can get rid of these router links, and let's get some new router links in there. So we have router-link, and that is to. We can also v-bind to this if we need to dynamically set that as well. There's also another way, more ways to do, like navigating with the router other than just clicking buttons. So let's see. 2, we'll have a user, and then oops. No, I'm spelling it all wrong too. User, close the tag, user, profile. We can actually just close it, whatever. Doesn't need to be perfect. So we have 2 buttons. We have our home and we have a user profile. And we click that, it says user profile. And it's kind of like a whole new page, essentially. So pretty straightforward. And then let's do a new file, and we can say user.view. So instead of just having like a generic user profile, if we wanted to go about it like this, and using parameters to specify the routes, we can do that as well. So let's see. I'm getting myself confused. So let's see. Dynamic user. And I just want to have a computed property, and that will get access to the route params object. So instead of user, we will have, oh, this is the wrong thing, goodness. Dynamic user inside of the dynamic user component. Dynamic user. Actually, we'll do string interpolation here when we'll say name or dynamic. All right. So inside of here, we want the computed property that we will use the request object or the params object to fill this value right here. But before we get to there, we need to go back to our app.vue and we need to create a new router link. And actually, instead of using the to attribute, I'm going to use JavaScript to do it. So we'll open up a new router link or router link element component, just like that, and we will say at click equals navigate to profile, just like that. Oops, and I need it to have a closing tag, so you can say router link, close that. So we have 3 router links. One goes to home, one goes to the user component, and the other one is going to the dynamic user component. And what we can also do is underneath this nav and above the router view, we will just enter in, we're just gonna put a div with the, actually we'll just put a div, it doesn't need to have anything any classes added to it. Next thing I want to do is we're just going to do an input, or no, we'll have a label. We don't need a for attribute in this instance. We'll just say, what's your name? Put some breaks in here. And I think I can apply a class to it. I just want to double check. Give it a border, 3 pixels, solid black. Yep, okay. We can. And let's give it some margin top of like 3 rem. 5 rem. 8 rem. Alright, cool. So we got a label and an input we'll put underneath that, and it will be the type of text. Don't need an ID or a name attribute. We'll just break it. I'm not using any type of, like, obviously you would want to go through this and actually whatever, we'll just do it really quick properly instead of using the breaks right there. We'll just give this a div with the class of name input like that, and then we'll do name dash input, and then all the children will just say display, oops, not direction, display lock. So that should not do exactly what I wanted it to do, because I guess we're making it too difficult. All right. Name input is going to be display flex. And flex direction will be column, and then we want to justify everything center, and then we also just want to give it an alignment really quick, center. And then we'll target that input really quick. I just want to make it a little bit bigger. Alright, cool. That works. Okay, basically what I want to do with this is we're going to v-model to oh, there's no script in here, that's crazy. Alright, script. Bring in our script tag because we want to instantiate an instance, our Vue instance on this component. Jeez Louise. Script. There we go. Alright. Okay, so we'll export default. If I can type tonight, jeez Louise. Export default, and then inside of here we're going to say our data property, or our data function that returns a new object. And inside of here we'll have name, right? So inside of that we'll just have it be an empty string, and then we want to v-model this input with that data property. V-model name, just like that. And then the next thing we want to do is we're going to write our method, and we'll see why we're doing this in just a second here. So what is this giving me an error for? Okay, for the router link you might need to actually include the 2, but okay, instead of doing a router link here, we're just going to do, what kind of tag is this actually? Oops. Let's take a look. Oh, it's an A tag. We set it as a P tag. Yeah, okay, so if we add the tag class, we can change it to whatever type of element we want. Just FYI. Delete this actually, but let's say we want to do, what is that? A label. We could do, okay, so we'll just do an A tag actually. A href. We don't need an href. We're just going to say your profile. Just like that. Well, I guess we could just do a span if it's not going to have an href. href equals $. So it's just gonna do nothing, but what we'll do is we'll do that at click equals nav to profile. Okay. And now we can write that method. So down in our Vue instance, we can say, open up our methods object as such, and then we can have that method written in here. So nav to profile, just like that. And then that'll be a function. And inside of this, we can just say this dot, what is it? Or is it router dot push? And then let's just make sure this works first of all. So we'll say dynamic, just like that. So we'll push the string value of it, of the page or the view to the router. So let's give it a refresh and click it. Oh shit, shoot. Router is not defined. Okay. This dot $router. Okay. Did that work? This dot $router. Let's see. This dot $router dot push. Okay. Oh wait. Let's see. What we got dynamic here. Let's take a look at our router. Oh, we don't have that in our router yet. Goodness. All right. So let's write that route now, since we've forgotten it up until this point. So import dynamic user from dot slash views dynamic user dot view, and then we can make that component now. So let's first start off just by creating the route. Okay, so path will be dynamic profile. The name will be dynamic, and then the component will be the dynamic user, just like that. Okay, and inside of this, let's see, we go to this element. Do we have what we need? No. Oh, because that's not bringing the right thing. We need to change our app to dynamic profile, just like that. All right, so we have dynamic user. This view is under construction. So we will say actually, instead of doing this string interpolation there, we'll just say dynamic user, and then we'll say welcome. Your name is name. Or user. Oops. Okay, so your name is name, or if name returns false, then it will be user. Hard coded as a string, and just like that. Say your name is user, just like that. It shows up just fine, and then wait a second. No, that works. That's fine. We will say inside of our app.view, now we can actually pass in, instead of this, we can do, let's take a look at our markup, or our markdown file. Oops, up here. Here we go. So we have a couple of different ways we can push to the router, right? So we can do the literal string push, which we just showed. So that's just a string being pushed to the router. We can push an object containing the path or the named route that we want to push to. Inside of this object that we can also push a nested object of params and also a nested object of queries, which will result in a query string being generated inside of the URL. So we're going to look at right here because we want to pass a param with it, and that param is going to be the name. So let's go back into our app.vue, and instead of doing this, we're just going to do an object, and inside of here we will say we're going to do the pathway. So path is, let's see, how did we have it, or how did we have it written in our, so a string again, and then this will be dynamic profile, just like that, and then we will also add in an object of params, so just like that, and then inside of here we will have name is this dot name, right? And if we wanted to, we could also do let's pass in the query object as well. Is it query or queries? Yeah, just query. So we pass in a query object, oops, to app.vue here, and we'll just also just pass the name in as a query string. Cool. So when we click this button now, this a tag, we should see it generate our name, and well, we won't see the name yet because we need to pull that out of the params, but we should see the query string load up in the URL up here. So let's click your profile. Oops, what did it give us an error for? Name is not defined on the instance but referenced. Oh, let's see. Oh, it's pulling from the dynamic user. Okay, so if we have, it's throwing an error, so it's not going to do what we need to do. Okay, so we can actually, so right here is kind of an example of what we're looking at is you can even access the params object via just string interpolation. So let's go to our dynamic user component, and inside of computed we will have name, and that will be a function that's return this dot or $route dot params dot name, just like that. Now that should give us actually what we need now. Refresh that, click on that. Uh-oh, what's it saying now? $route. Oh, this dot $route. No errors. Okay, let's try typing in a name now. My name is Sean. And we'll do your profile. Oh, is it gonna work for us? Let's see. Name computed is undefined. I don't know if we can return it like that. Let's just let's actually just, instead of doing it as a computed property, let's do as the example showed it, and let's do it right here. We'll say, actually, before we do that, I want to just double check and make sure. So let's see, let's add the name to the URL. So So inside of the router, it would be name. Yeah, okay. Alright, let's see if this is going to give us what we want. It's breaking. Functional. Oh, I think I'm missing one part. Okay, let's see. Oh, I see. We don't add the params in the query in like this. Let's see. I'm learning just as much as everybody else right now. I usually just do really basic routes. Oh, hold on. So if I do, instead of that, I'm gonna do backticks. And then we can say $ string. We want to say this dot name, right? So if I say blah 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 and I click your profile, name is or method is not defined. Close these other ones out, they're getting in the way. Oh, so we need to say this dot, or wait, do we say, we don't need to say this, we just say route dot params dot name. Alright, cool, there we go. Sweet, it worked. Alright, so if I type in Sean and I go to my profile, it says dynamic user welcome, your name is Sean. Yes, we did it. Cool. Yeah, I don't know, so that's kind of interesting, and you can get really in depth with this, obviously. And like if we had, so yeah, my mistake on that, we don't go about it this way, we just push like that, and then so if we wanted to include parameter or queries in this, so I like had that, and then so now after this is where we would say $ name equals Sean, like that, and then so if we run this path, we have Sean in there. What the hell? Oh, let's see. I wonder why that's not displaying the name. In the web address bar up here. Interesting. Okay, whatever. I'm not worried about it right now. At least, like, the main point is that, like, you change it out. So if we go and take a look at, oops, not this. djencounter.netlify.com. Again, oh, we don't want to go to the admin. We want to go to just the regular website. So I got landing, mixes. You can see that it changes up here. Obviously, it's not public facing ready yet because it's not friendly looking because it was the double dashes. But you get the idea. Kind of will update up here. and whatnot. So yeah, I don't know. That's basically the router in a nutshell. Yeah, I don't use too many of the advanced features of it, but if you're building like a big user-based, user-heavy or large user-based app, then getting to know the router is going to be crucial to making everything run smoothly in conjunction with everything else. So yeah, I think that's going to do it for this evening, and this live coding series will come to a close. I know the one thing that we didn't talk about in this series is animation, and using that's kind of like a whole thing on its own. So I've been getting some requests for doing kind of like a front end, back end sign up login system from essentially scratch. So I'll probably put a small project like that together, demonstrating how to do that properly with like security and all that good stuff. And we'll do like maybe a 2 or 3 episode mini series on getting that or building that project together. And we might do it in Vue, or we might just stick with vanilla JavaScript, at least like ES6. But it would be cool to do Vue. We might try and venture out and maybe do it in React, but that seems like it might be kind of too many learning curves at one point. I mean, I'm familiar with like React, more so like React Native, how to work with that, but like when you use Vue all the time, it can be, you forget things, and it's like context switching issues and stuff like that. And I haven't used React quite frequently in a while, so it'll be a little bit rusty. So it'll be a learning curve, but I definitely want to check out some stuff. Definitely the front end, back end, sign up, login, and then like fully authorized and authenticated kind of stuff. So if that's something you'll be interested in, make sure to tune in on that. And then also we will be having August 10th, which is a Saturday. Mark your calendars and save the date, because we're going to be doing a special stream commemorating the 1-year channelversary of RabbitWerks JavaScript on YouTube. So I'm thinking about doing an Ask Me Anything. If anybody is interested in participating with that, I'm more than happy to oblige. We can do some fun stuff, just kind of chill and have a good time, and just kind of like celebrate the 1 year so far, 1 year strong of RabbitWerks, and we're gonna keep going, trucking along, pulling ahead further along. So August 10th, RabbitWerks JavaScript 1 year channelversary. Make sure to mark your calendars and save it. So I hope to see you there. Let me know in the Discord if you have any questions about it. If you want to submit your question for the Ask Me Anything, we'll probably open up a special thread for that over in the Discord. Otherwise, we might just do it in the chat. I don't know. We'll see if anybody even shows up. So you guys have plenty of notice. August 10th. So until then, that's going to do it from me. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Live Coding with RabbitWerks JavaScript. My name has been Sean, and it is still Sean, and it always will be Sean. And we will always be doing more learning and bringing on the knowledge as much as possible. So if you like this and you learned from it, make sure to give me a like. Make sure to give me a comment on any questions you might have, anything I might have gotten wrong, let me know. Anything you liked, just throw it in the comments. And also, above all, make sure to hit the subscribe button, because then you'll get notified on all the live coding sessions. You'll be able to actually show up for the August 10th extravaganza for RabbitWerks on YouTube. So, thank you so much, and no matter where you are, or no matter where you are in the world, thank you so much. Again, my name is Sean, RabbitWerks JavaScript. Have a good night, stay awesome, keep coding, and never give up. Follow your dreams, follow your heart, follow your mind, as long as they're all going in the right direction. I don't know if that made any sense. Anyways, have a good Sunday night, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Cheers.